Yeah, last night we got a call that there was some human remains that were claimed down by the river. So um, members of our missing persons team have attended, and we're doing some further investigation given the time that it came in last night and daylight. So we're back there today looking into this, and then we'll be working with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in trying to determine identification and go from there.
What are some of the avenues that the CME can use to help identify, someone who may be reported missing or for otherwise?
Yeah, and that's the key factor right there. If they've been reported missing, a lot of times our missing persons teams has already initiated an investigation, and they're got information that's going to be relevant to what we find at the scene. So that's number one step, and then we'll work with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. Then we've got different avenues they would pursue, and our forensic unit, right from fingerprinting, maybe evidence that's located at the scene, simple things like telephones, identification. When it becomes more complicated and a person may have been there longer, then we're going to work with the pathologist, our anthropologist, our odontologist. And that's where things start to draw out and take a little bit longer, maybe in terms of that identification.
And I know the spring thaw was, just kind of happening. Was this a person who had been deceased for some time? Is there any early indication on that?
Yeah, I think in both the cases from the last few days, that's going to be key factors.
Are there any connections between these cases?
I don't see any connection between these right now, no, other than the fact of kind of relative location and the time frame, but no connection that we see right now. We'll definitely be looking into that, but preliminary, no.
And with either of the cases, is there any indication of foul play?
Not at this time, no.
Talked to a criminologist earlier, and he says unfortunately this can become a little more common at this time of year to find bodies near big pathways of water. Is that something that you've seen from the CPS in your time in the service or in law enforcement?
Yeah, I think we could tend to agree with that. Number one, we've got, like you mentioned, the spring thaw. Also, with that comes nicer weather, more people are out. So people are just out and about, and they're seeing more things than when we may have been secluded in our homes for the last few months.
How would officers maybe work to determine whether or not a victim is potentially, unhoused, part of the homeless population? Obviously, there's lots of encampments around bodies of water like that. Is that something that involves the missing persons unit? Are there any outreach groups that have to get involved to try to determine that as well?
Sorry, in terms of if our victim was one of the, yeah, 100%. Like I said, some of our key factors are going to be the location of where the person is located, maybe the potential manner of death gives us clues, but the most important thing is the identity, and that tells the story around the person that we found. So in some cases it could be somebody that doesn't want to be found, and this could be a self-inflicted incident, and they've gone to a remote location in the hopes of not being found, right? In some cases it could be somebody from a vulnerable community, and they've met some, bad circumstances, maybe over the winter or whatever it is, lifestyle that's led to this.
I know a lot of people reading this or reading the story from last week will be interested in following up on this and maybe hearing some resolution. Do you know how long these timelines typically take, or just the longer that body may have been there before you folks discover it, that can really affect the timeline and the investigation?
Yeah, and you're speaking on one from Thursday, Friday?
Yeah, I mean both, but yeah.
Yeah, that one, and just it's a good example of, number one, we're dealing with a difficult terrain and lots of heavy overgrown bush. We do believe that person was probably there for quite some time. We had to go back the following day. We had volunteers come in from our Calgary Search and Rescue, and we combed that area over really well, and we're unable to locate some of the items that we're thought maybe could be there. We went back the following day with more volunteers, spending the whole day there, metal detectors, and again we recovered more evidence and items that are probably going to help tell the story of what occurred there. Because those remains have been there for quite some time, that's now where we're going to have to work with the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner and go down some of those steps that we talked about with pathology, anthropology, the odontologist, and then ultimately DNA hopefully will bring us back to that. We got to send those things away to labs to be tested. That takes some time. So now it's going to be a bit of a slow process now that we've got past that key point of the scene. now we're back to focusing on identity.
I'm sorry if you already repeated this, but are the two incidents at the Spruce Gardens and the Edwarden Park related?
Nothing shows that they're related at this time, no.
Can I ask a few questions about the stabbing on the weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anybody have charges been laid?
No charge have been laid on that incident. We did have people that were, we questioned on early Saturday morning into the day. They've since been released. That investigation continues. Unfortunately, not much more I can say at this point, but we're making some headway.
Are you looking for a potential suspect vehicle, possibly dark in color?
I did mention we had talked about a potential Tesla there. That is not a suspect vehicle. The reason that came up from our original request was the fact that the Teslas have technology capabilities and potentials for recordings that we thought we'd explore that and see if there was anything captured.
Has any more witnesses come forward, or are you looking
We're
for more?
continuing to plug away, speaking with people on that one as the week goes. Yeah, we've been working nonstop since the weekend on that one.
Did this altercation start in the Commonwealth Bar before heading out to the parking lot?
Everything we see, it started outside.
2 cases of human remains were reported within a week. Should people be concerned about this?
I don't think there's any reason to be concerned. I think we've covered that already. It might just be a factor of weather, spring thaw, and more people out now, more observant of what might be out there.
How common are these cases?
In terms of,
In terms of the human remains, sorry.
yeah, we deal with them quite regularly actually. They're not always as public maybe on pathways or located, but unfortunately it's kind of what we have to deal with at times, yeah.
And have any of the remains been linked to missing persons cases?
That's what we're working on right now. They're still very fresh. In the past, yes, we've been able to link them together. Sometimes it's fairly quickly, within weeks or months of the original missing person report. In other cases, within the past couple years, it took about 2 years for us to identify, and that came through DNA.
Retreading over a little bit here, but is there anything out of the norm here other than the fact that they were sort of in the vicinity of human, people walking around?
No, nothing that's suspicious or alarming to us right now.
So your review, this wouldn't be anything sort of strange for CPS to be seeing?
No.
Anything else?
Sorry, just one quick for clarification. You talked about the timeline with the Spruce Grove incident on Thursday there.
Mhm.
Are we looking at a similar timeline for this one that happened last night, or is it still too kind of early?
I think it's too early right now. I know members are still out there today, so I haven't even had an update, but too early to predict where we might be.